and the U.S. The league provides nonpartisan educational election information through candidate forums, as we are here tonight. And also we have a forum on Thursday, July 11th at the Alliance for the Arts, for the Commission, School Board, and Fort Myers. In addition, we have an online voter guide. It's called vote411.org, and each of you can access that 24/7 and put in your address and see information relevant to your voting for the future elections. The candidates for the August election will not be posted until probably the end of this week or beginning of next week, but they will be available to you. The August 20th election will determine many city and county leaders. Ballots will include 2 universal primaries for the property appraiser and the supervisor of elections, and nonpartisan races for the school board, Cape Coral, Fort Myers, and some judicial candidates. Ballots for voters with a party affiliation will include their party's candidates. So it's called a primary election, but it's important for all of us to vote in that election. I'd ask you to mute your phones, please. All 17 candidates for Cape Coral City Council are listed on your agenda. All were invited to this forum and to participate in the Vote 411 voter guide through multiple emails and follow-up calls. As of tonight, we have 13, and I thank you very much for participating tonight. And a few others had conflicts. Candidates, this is an important point for all of us, candidates qualify in their district, but they are elected by all Cape Coral voters. So even if you don't live in the district that these candidates represent, you still vote for them. Forum questions were selected from recommendations from league members and the public. The candidates have not been provided the questions in advance. Tonight, because we have so many candidates and so little time, we are not going to accept questions from the audience, but we would like you, if you have some questions, to complete an index card and provide that to us, and we will be providing that to the candidates. For those on Zoom, you can type your questions into the chat and we will include those as well. We thank each of the candidates for being here with us today and to explain their policy positions and values so that we can make informed choices. We ask all forum candidates to speak only for themselves and not about their opponents. Before I turn this over to our moderator, I would like to thank the many volunteers who helped to make this forum possible, including Eileen Conroy, who's the forum coordinator, Nancy Leverance, event coordinator, Paul Benazia, who's helping us with technical assistance, and we could not have done this without him. So thank you, Paul. Dorothy Browning will be the moderator, and you will meet in a moment, and our timekeepers, Carolyn Moore and Monica Shintani. And now I'd like to introduce Dorothy Browning, our moderator. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So let's go over some ground rules for the debate. We'll be very proud of you, right? So each candidate is going to have 90 seconds.
She's got to tell her. She's not using the microphone.
And then 1 minute to do a closing statement.
Role as a producer is evidence in connection to much of that. Well, the state will present evidence that the defendant had not just as an actor, but as a producer.
So 90 minutes for opening remarks, 1 minute on the questions, and 1 minute. There will be no rebuttals, and the candidates will be just saying they won't be comparing themselves to other candidates. And speaking words and random names. The timekeeper will signal candidates with the color cards marking on a whole lot of control. 30 seconds. 30 seconds, and then 15 seconds. And stop. Do they do the stop sign, that means finish your. We want to cover as many issues as possible, so, if y'all please change your laws during this.
Give her one of
because that
the,
takes up a lot of
she's got to
time.
hold it in front of it.
And let's start with the opening statements. So the first person is going to be Lori. We got Mike, and I was scared. Sure.
I'm Lori Lehman. I live in District 2. I'm running for District 2. I've lived there since 2004. I don't want to see anything done to JC Park other than refurbish it. I want to see the wasteful spending stopping. And I'm trying to change things. I've been going to city council meetings and speaking since 2022. I didn't start getting active when I became a candidate. I started a long time ago. And I'm going to continue doing that because I want things to change here in the Cape.
That should be right.
Well, good evening, everybody. My name is Derek Dunnell. I am a 29-year resident here in Cape Coral. I've been here with my family. One of my proudest things is that I'm a husband of 31 years. So I've learned it just yesterday, and it's my fault, all right? I have two beautiful daughters, Andrea and Ashley, and I love it to death. I'm a family man, which is part of the reason why I'm running. Those of you all might remember me, I was in District 7. It got redistricted 2 years ago. So I've been in the same house, it just drew the lines, so now I'm in District 3. A little bit about me, I'll just tell you now, many of this is on my website, ericdunnell.com. I am a former Marine, 100 pounds ago, I was a Marine Army Marine. I was a battalion Army man as well as a captain. Also, I have my doctorate degree from the University of Central Florida. I teach anatomy and physiology at Florida Southwestern. In the morning, you can find me with the middle school. I've been here, you probably noticed me, I've been around forever. I love this city. So I will say to you this, the three big ones you hear me say. Number one, I want to restore the confidence. I'm not going to say trust, because who trusts the government? Not me, not you. But I do want to build the confidence to know that while you're out there looking, someone is really looking very specifically at the issues and making sure your tax dollars are used very, very efficiently. Also, smart growth. You all know the growth is booming. We can do something with the policies. And last and certainly not least, we want to maintain the lifestyle we've come accustomed to, especially those of us in areas like JC Park. So again, I look forward to talking to you.
So the moderator has to get the phone.
I told her. The little microphone.
Good evening, my name is Richard Carr. I'm the current District 4 council member. I'm running to complete the term that remains for 2 years. I think the consistency is very important to the office. I'm a 31-year resident. My wife and I bought our first house here in 1993. A lifelong public servant. I was a police officer for 25 years, retired from the Fort Myers Police Department. So I'm very familiar with the city and its growth. I have seen some adversarial growth in the past, to include the Midpoint Bridge, believe it or not. There was opposition to that. So I think that's some perspective to bring forward with decision making about some of the hard choices we have to make moving forward. But water is important, obviously, to the city. Smart growth, make sure the infrastructure is in place with the roadways and the water to keep us moving forward in a positive way. People want to live here. We have a very safe city. I want to do everything I can to maintain that through support of the police and fire departments. So thank you very much. I hope to get your vote.
Next is William Matthews.
Good evening, everyone. Again, William Matthews, District 4. I am running because I'm generally concerned with the direction that our city's heading. We're not heading in a direction where, you know, a future could actually be made with the way that we are building. It's not sustainable. At this point, that is the main focus of, you know, my candidacy. Our infrastructure problems are at a point where, you know, we started already building in the south part of Cape Coral, and it's taken so long to get to where we are now, that as soon as we're done, if we even get finished in the north, we're gonna have to come back and redo the south, because it's not gonna be able to sustain the growth that we're having now. So it's just gonna be a continuous circle that we need to fix. So I wanna stop that and get it right now, so that we don't have to keep moving in the wrong direction. That is a main priority for me, and also, obviously, we have the water problems and the stipend issue. There's, talking with the residents, there are so many issues that we need to prioritize. And I want to strategically make sure that we hit all of them in the correct way. Thank you.
All right, next is David Hartman.
Very seriously because I recognize.
My name is Michael Harper. I am running for District 7. First off, thank you ladies for having us this evening. I think this is wonderful. Beats the heck out of the online process. Also want to wish all the candidates here the best of luck on getting elected. The reason I'm running is because I was always taught to make sure you leave it better than you found. Been here 31 years, lived in pretty much every part of the Cape, know the Cape pretty well. I think there are some things that we can improve on. Things that are at the top of my list, it would be infrastructure, roads being probably the main one of that. Another thing is affordable housing. Housing is very, very expensive. I'm in the mortgage business. I know how much it costs to buy a house and what payments are. So we need to try to find some affordable housing. And lastly, running in District 7, obviously Northeast, Northwest, we're gonna have some water issues. So we got to figure out a way to try to, get in front of that. So we want to make sure that we want to be forward thinking. As gentleman here said, some of the choices will be hard. You might, not see benefit to it for 3, 4, 5 years down the road. So we'd love to have your vote. And I appreciate the time here this evening.
Next, Dan Shepherd.
Still unhappy. Next. Right, look at the hazy sky out there.
Hello, Dan Shepherd, I'm the council member for District 2, and I'm looking for a second term. I like challenges. I had challenges 4 years ago. One of the challenges was bringing more medical to the city and another hospital, and I've done that. You've seen many medical facilities being built the last 4 years all over, and eHealth is expanding rapidly with multiple locations throughout the city, including the Basin Project they're involved in. Also, one of my other challenges that I promised everybody was a competitive Olympic pool for our kids, and that's happening. We have a joint venture now with the YMCA, and that's happening. The other thing was to expand our utilities and infrastructure and invest heavily in it. We've doubled the amount of money that we spend on our roads and paving, and we are moving forward with the infrastructure. And last but least was to raise the financial demographic per household, because that's what decides what comes to the city, the financial demographic per household. And in the last 4 years, it's doubled. And that's why you see houses selling for $800,000 to over $1 million. And that's what we need to pay for the services. Keep them services that we have, quality services. I've also invested in keeping our reputation as being one of the safest cities in the state of Florida, and I invested in training centers for the police and firemen so that we keep that reputation. Thank you.
Next, Daniel Ludlow.
Hi, my name is Daniel Ludlow. I'm 52 years old, disabled veteran. I'm running for District 3. One of the main reasons I'm running is because there's no transparency with the current council. They're just spending money and doing what they want, not telling you guys what they're doing. Take JC Park, for instance. They just decided they were gonna make that place a blooming little, food trucks and everything without asking anybody. And they just decided to do something like that. So we need to stop that. We need to let the public know what they're planning on doing and why they're doing it. I don't want to be another Miami. I didn't move here 6 years ago to be Miami. I wanted that. I'd have lived in Miami. So I'm running for District 3, and everybody in every district can vote. Thank you.
Next, Jennifer Nelson.
Hi, everyone. My name is Jennifer Nelson. I have lived in Cape Coral for 16 years. I raised my daughter here, who's now 19, and hopefully going to become an EMT. She's taking her test this week. She loves public service almost as much as her mom does. I've spent my entire career working with nonprofits. Nonprofit leadership is my jam, helping people. I had a 25-year-long career with Goodwill. I'm looking at Dorothy because we worked together actually at this Goodwill. And I'm a native Texan, and I'm really looking forward to serving again. I served previously from 2017 to 2022. I feel called to do this work. I've always felt called to it. My last election, unfortunately, didn't end so well. However, I think there's still a lot of things that we need to do to move forward. Growth is definitely a concern. All of the doors I've knocked on, the number one concern I hear from all of you is traffic. I'm really happy. The last time I sat on the Cape Coral Traffic Advisory Council, we had talked about putting together a comprehensive plan for traffic. And I'm happy to hear that's happening. In addition to grants, I know that we received 2 grants from the state and the feds to help with UEP. Those types of initiatives need to continue to happen so that it helps us, the taxpayers, not spend as much money. Thank you.
Great. Next, Joseph Kilrain.
My name is Joe Kilrain, District 5. I've been out here about 20 years, spent about 45 years in industry with Olin Corporation and Occidental Petroleum. I started a chemical plant when I was 14 years old, a mining kid. That was the only thing I could do. At the time, we needed money in the family. And I came up to very senior ranks in that industry. Never forgot my roots the whole time. I've been watching council very closely for the last 15 years. And I came out of retirement last year because of the things that I've seen going on. The people are being left behind by this council. There's a lack of trust completely in what council has been doing. There's no recognition for the people. I'm a champion of the people and I'm a fighter. Basically, the issues that we have right now are moment in time issues. We can get by this trust issue with the right people in there and fighting for the citizens' right to be heard. The key issues that we have to get onto, there are major issues related to, number one, the pace of development. We need to make sure infrastructure is paced properly with development. Sub issues on the infrastructure are water. Water will eat our lunch here. Sourcing of water is terrible. I'm a pretty good expertise in water from Olin Corporation and other things that I've done from drilling. We really need to solve that water thing. Number 2 is traffic. And there's multimodal traffic opportunities that we can have. I thank you. I appreciate your listening to me. Go to my website. I look for your vote. Thank you.
Next is Robert Sutter.
Use the mic or not use the mic, it doesn't really matter. First of all, thank you all very much for showing up today. I greatly appreciate you taking time out from your evening to listen to us. I'm gonna break my comments into 2 different sections. One is who am I? And second is what I believe in. First of all, I'm an Eagle Scout. I'm a disabled combat Army officer. I'm also worked in corporate America, part of a $4.7 billion program where I was the operations manager. And then I personally was held accountable for $120 million annually to manage that type of money. I'm also what's called Six Sigma certified, which means I understand how to do root cause analysis. I'm also earned value management certified, which means I know how to look at something and say, measure period of performance over scope, over budget, and I can tell you if you're on track or if you're not on track. I still hold a secret clearance, and I'm also FEMA certified at the Department of Defense level. Kind of would have been nice to have a couple of years ago, right? You know how it's gonna happen. So what am I interested in? I'm interested in your wallet, my wallet. I want to save us money. I want to stop the out of control spending. I want to do it smartly. I want to focus on the things that we need and not the things that we want. All right. I realize there's a strategic plan laid out. Sometimes you have to slow the pace of that activity down so that everybody can heal their wallets from the hurricane. Have a great day. Thank you very much.
Next is Robert Welch.
Thank you, everyone. My name is Robert Welsh. I'm your current council member in District 5. I've lived here pretty much my entire life. A lot of you already, or might not know who I am, but I want to touch base on, accomplishments. Not what I plan to do in the next 4 years, but what actually I accomplished in the 4 years that I've had. One of the things I ran on 4 years ago was public safety. And I can tell you, as Councilmember Shepherd did, we now have 2 public training facilities for police and fire under construction. That will be completed more than likely before my term is over, which will allow us to train and grow our fire and police force with our current Cape Coral residents. The next one that I ran on was infrastructure improvements. And I'm happy to tell everyone here that during my term in office, we got the biggest grant that Cape Coral has ever gotten, $25 million to go to the residents to use in UEP 1 and 2. That's money back in your pockets. That's not money that goes to the city. Also, we've pre-funded the expansion of Pine Island Road to be 6-lane all the way by about 10 years in advance of what the state was planning to do, by funding the PD&E study ahead of time and budgeting that in the budget. So a lot of you're gonna hear tonight are the hot topic issues. The current hot topic issues we all know and we all know about, but I want to remind everyone what the hot topic issues were 4 years ago when I ran. One of them was the Chiquita Lock. I'm happy to say that with the results of me being on council, the Chiquita Lock is being removed.
Thank you.
And there's others later. Thank you again for coming tonight.
Next is Craig Monroe.
My name is Craig Unruh. I'm running for City Council District 2. What got me in this race was consistently watching my property taxes go up and seeing no improvements. Then I realized that money's being spent on special projects rather than infrastructure, it seems like. We still have street signs that are damaged from Hurricane Ian that are not fixed. There's roads that need repair, not being done. You can go down sands, a certain section of sand you go down, you think you're on a roller coaster because it's all the way down. It's just the road conditions. And I watched the numbers go to the city council meetings. I watched the meetings online. I work full time, so I have the flexibility to watch them online. And over the course of about 2 years of watching them, I see numbers going up and talking to council, but there's no feedback. You know, they just all they get is okay, thank you, next, and you get run through it out like cattle. You need a voice up there that can actually listen to what you got to say and follow up with what your complaint is to see if there's a resolution that can be done. My first 2 things will be rescind the stipend and kill the JC parking. First day on. Again, my name is Craig Unruh.
And finally, Chad Green.
Hello, my name's Chad Bruning. I'm running for District 3. Do the right thing. That's what I learned growing up in the Midwest. I've always used that trait in developing my business. I own my own construction company for over 15 years. I have been in commercial construction for over 35 years. I'm back up, I should say 33 years. What I've learned in doing my projects is I excel at bringing people together for a common cause. With that, I have so many different personalities on these projects, and I have to marry everyone together for the good of the project itself. The items that I'm looking at is JC Park. I do feel that it needs to have some improvements, some ADA items, but it does not need this full-blown plan that's on the table right now whatsoever. Traffic is definitely an issue. It's something that we need to be learning, what we've learned down south and moving that up north and making wise decisions on how we move forward. And we need to be increasing the commercial tax base. That income, we need to stop sending people over the bridge every day to go to work and try to keep them here in Cape Coral. Thank you for your time.
Thank you everybody for those opening statements. Now we're going to move on to questions, which again came from input review, as well as League of Women Voters participants. Because sometimes you forget what the question is, I'm going to pass out the questions to you. So if you can just take one and pass it down, that way when we get there, I'm going to repeat it so much. We may need to have a sharing of glasses up here.
It'll go out, it'll go out.
So the first question, we'll go to Michael Harper first, and the question is, what do you see as the priorities for land preservation and parks in Cape Coral? Michael, you have 60 seconds.
That's good for mine.
As far as priorities, I think we definitely need to put aside some land as far as preservation goes, stuff that is actually untouchable. Big part of quality of life is the park system. People love going to the parks, they take their families there, they take their dogs there. Quite honestly, on the weekends, a lot of people, that's what they do, is just go to the park, that's what they can afford. So as far as that goes, we need to set aside, that. The parks itself, looked at what the county council has done, there are a lot of improvements that have been. There are a couple things that, are out there that I think can be modified a little bit. I don't think we need to, Jason Park is one of them. I think there are some things there that definitely need to be done to help it out a little bit, but as far as some of the other things with it, I think that's going to become a safety issue. You're putting alcohol at some of these events.
Thank you, Michael. Same question, William Matthews.
I'm very big advocate for green spaces. We need more of them, and green spaces are for families. Those are the type of residents that we want here. A lot of the residents here always grew up. We had massive amount of green spaces, especially when we were younger. And moving forward, we want to make sure that we have those spaces for families to come and enjoy and to bring their kids and to bring their pets and get out there and enjoy the sun, run around and have fun and things like that. I have a lot of issues with some of the parks that were put into place recently. They were not done correctly. We didn't take the time to, one, ask the residents what they were looking for with respect to what you want to do and what's actually put in the parks, let alone, not what was wrong with them, but just what you want. And we didn't do the right thing, and we're actually spending a lot more than we actually think we did. For the coming years, because although it hasn't come out, we haven't paid for it yet, but it's coming.
Thank you. And Shepherd.
Yes, I'm for preserving as much green space as possible. I'm all about beautification in the Cape, as everybody knows, because it adds value to all our properties, our residential properties, and that's what we want to do. We want to increase the value of our property. But I am also for getting all these parks done. I voted in the last 4 years for all investment on all these parks. Unfortunately, we've had some hiccups. We had the epidemic, we had the labor inflation, the hurricane, but they're getting done. And I would take the time to go on the city website, go check out a lot of these great parks that are happening all over the city. And I will continue to support additional green space in the city. Thank you.
Next, Richard Carr.
Thank you. Parks are extremely important. It's a big part of what we have to balance with the development we have going forward. Our city was pre-platted. We have multiple parks that are still undeveloped throughout the city. As population increases, those areas infill, then the parks can be developed for the benefit of those smaller community areas for neighborhood parks. I live near a neighborhood park, benefited it with my children throughout their lives here. District 4, we have the golf course, huge opportunity for us with green space. I'm a huge advocate. I'm anticipating hopeful negotiation outcomes for the city to acquire that property. And I will be a huge advocate to maintain that as parkland, especially with the increased growth downtown in our South Cape Coral districts. We're going to need that to allow for the extra population growth and have somewhere for them to go with their families in the green space that we have available to us. Very little green space, unfortunately, with a city of our size. But I'm a huge advocate to continue what we're doing. with development and maintenance for our parks.
Next, Daniel Ludlow.
I actually believe that we have enough parks right now. Obviously, we're gonna need more, but I think we should start buying green spaces, natural mangroves, stuff for the animals to live, your owls, tortoises, natural storm barriers, the mangroves up on Bird Store and Pine Island, places like that that don't need to be maintained. Every time we build a park, you gotta maintain it, and if you look at the popularity of the parks, not that much. We don't need to keep building parks for people to visit when 5 people a week go to visit it. We need to think about storm barriers, think about our owls and our tortoises. We need to think about the mangroves and all that stuff. We buy that land, put it in deed of perpetuity, it can't be touched. And then we're safe with that. Then you can consider building more.
Next, Chad Brady.
Did I turn it on? Sorry. I agree. I think that we need the green spaces, but we need to make sure that we are spending our money wisely. We need to look at some action committees, get the neighborhoods involved. We do not need another JC Park going on right now. It's quite obvious the neighborhood does not know what the plan is going on. So we need to be listening to our citizens as we move forward with any type of developments of future parks. Thank you.
Greg Unruh.
Well, we kind of moved into nature's backyard when we started developing Cape Coral, so we need to preserve some land for wildlife. As far as parks go, when you look at the plans for JC Park and they want to include Beach Road, that tells me the city wants parks to generate revenue. That's a park is supposed to be a place where you get away from stuff like that. If I want to go drinking and eating, I'll go downtown. I don't need to go to a park for that. I do like the idea of some of the parks I've seen where they got shade sails up or playground equipment. I do believe that something like that should be put in JC Park because my granddaughter went there and she, the equipment is so hot, children can't play on it. So just minor updates like that, but I'm all about land preservation in parks. At least go to.
Thank you. Lori Lehman.
I believe that we need to preserve the parks, but our parks also need to be senior and handicap accessible. And unfortunately, a lot of times now they're not. My house borders park. Crush Hill paths are not dog friendly, senior friendly, or handicap friendly. That shouldn't be. The parks are our green spaces. Yes, refurbish JC Park, but we don't need more bars and band shells. Leave it as a park. The trees that are there need to stay there. Want to add more trees? Fine, but we don't need more boat slips. And we need to preserve what we have. Not go spending money on something that none of the citizens want. The citizens need to be listened to. So that we know what they want.
It doesn't feel right.
Thank you. Yes, I'm very much for preserving green space and based on what you heard, we're a free-parcel city, so it's very difficult to find that green space. It's out there, and we have to make sure when we're setting policy on the council that we don't change the land use requirements to allow commercialization of those precious green spaces that exist because we have a developer in our back pocket that we want to help. That is beyond the pale. Basically, I'm out there looking for what citizen input would be on anything that we do. It all begins with what's right for the citizens in the long term of the city. And it begins with the citizens and it should end with the citizens. We need their input. If something that's happening at JC Park should never have occurred. That should be staged properly. It should be done with full resident consent. We have 7,800 people on a petition saying that they do not want major changes. We have that petition there and they're not being listened to. The residents are being left behind. Thank you.
Robert Welch.
Thank you. When it comes to Parks and Recreation, that's a passion of mine. 4 years ago, I realized that the Parks and Rec Advisory, a citizen advisory board had gone awry. And one of the first things I did as a council member was I brought that board back. and filled it with people passionate about the environment, passionate about recreation, and passionate about sports. Unfortunately, that board has now gone away again, due to some council decisions, but again, I'm for completing the Go Bond parks as quickly as we can. Also, I stand against any sort of commercialization or development of Redfish Point. Redfish Point is actually the area that's south of Rotary Park. It's filled with mangroves and it's a preserved land, and I will support it staying a preserved land for the entire time. I also was against Hunter's Run, which is a golf course that became an opportunity to become apartment complexes, and I fought to keep it green space. And I also do support the city purchasing the golf club and turning it into perfect green space for the downtown Cape Coral area. Thank you.
Robert Sutter.
All right, as a Boy Scout, I'm totally into the environment. I believe that we should plant more trees in JC Park to provide more natural shade for those that walk around. I was out there Memorial Day and there were families out there having picnics. And that's what we need to do, is make parks so that families can go out there and enjoy the peace and quiet of the nature. All right, that's just what I believe in. However, I do believe what was said earlier, that the citizens get to vote on how they want their parks to be. I will tell you this, I've been out to several parks and I'm tired of landing strips. To where you go out there, it's totally cleaned off and you gotta bring your own shelter. We have to stop that. We need to bring nature back to our parks, bring more trees in so you can walk around without, getting overheated. That's what I believe in. Thank you.
Jennifer Nelson.
So the golf course is something that has been a hot topic since I ran back in 2017 and probably 4 years before that. One of the smartest things someone said to me, who happens to be sitting right down there, Dr. D, who I haven't even spoken to yet in this craziness. He said to me, Jennifer, how are you doing with all of these Save the Golf Course people? I said, well, it's a little overwhelming. And he said, remember this, young lady. He said, when you own it, you can decide what to do with it. And that was probably one of the smartest things he said to me, because he was right. When I ran in 2017, we didn't have enough green space. We need to be putting ordinances in place, similar to what the county does with 2020 land. Redfish Point is a great example of that. That could be 2020 land, but maybe we should put something in on our own as a city of Cape Coral and not rely on Lee County. But the golf course is our biggest opportunity. We are down from green space. We were back in 2017 for the amount of population that we have, and we're still down. So I'm a huge proponent for that, and I pray we get that golf course. Thank you.
And Derek Donald.
The question centered around how do we prioritize land preservation, part one. Part two, how do we as a council prioritize parks? Let's look at the first part, land preservation. What we control is how we submit up to the state our zoning. I think Joe mentioned it. So what we control then is what percent in keeping with the park. So we need to have a commitment from the council that we are going to preserve the land by, we can just make a statement, we can put it in a resolution that we're not going to change any parks for green space. Not as far as the parks. You all and we all voted on the GO bond, the general obligation bond for the parks. One of the pieces was to maintain the parks that were already there. So we've got to get back and maintain what we have before we start moving forward with other parks. So we're coming in the back, we get on the front end and coming in, but we're losing the back. So we have a commitment to maintain our parks and be very, very, very strategic about any parks that come forward, and it must have citizens input.
All right, that concludes the first question. We got some assistants passing out question number 2. And question number 2 is, what are your views on citizen involvement in the policy development and decision making in Cape Coral? First speaker will be Robert Sutter.
All right, I just looked at this a second ago, but the bottom line is every decision that the city makes needs to have the voice of the customer. One of the things that I've learned is OCM, organizational change management, is it's critical to hear the voice of the customer, not just to hear it, but to listen to it, to have a dialogue. That's what's critical. Without your input, we can't make the right decisions for you.
Okay.
All right, we got to have your input. Thank you.
Heard it. I
All
didn't
right, next is
understand.
Robert Lodge.
Does Debbie need to type it in?
She could. That would be great.
Thank you. As I stated on the last, and in my answer on the last question, I had noticed with our Parks and Recreation Advisory Board, it had gone stagnant for nearly 10 years. And one of the first things I did as a council member was bring that citizen-run advisory board back for Parks and Recreation. Now, we all know a lot of the parks, or a lot of the advisory boards were voted against and dissolved. But my votes are what actually counts. My votes that you can find and you can see certified was that I voted no on dissolving the budget committee. I voted no on dissolving a lot of the citizen advisory boards that we have, because to me, that's an important, very important issue, is I need to hear from experts in the field. I'm not an expert in everything, but I rely on the citizens in those boards to give me the advice and to talk amongst the city, other city leadership, to where I didn't have that knowledge. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Joseph Kilrain.
Thank you. Basically, everything that we do, if anyone who's watched the council meetings over the last year, it's terrible, the lack of respect that's shown in those meetings. I get it that it's a business meeting, but to the extent that they're not, the residents who are speaking are not paid attention to is abominable. And if we're gonna say we're going to hold town hall meetings, we better start holding them. That's where you can get a good two-way communications. So the key to it is we need to involve resident input in just about everything we do and start showing some respect for the residents. And it goes by the way of saying that we took everyone off of those committees. We need to get those advisory committees staffed up again with subject matter experts, with people who understand what the issues are close to the public, and communicate and work for the city on those things. We don't own all the answers because we're councilmen. And I'll be the first to admit that we need to have all of you participate, and I'll make sure that happens. Thank you.
Greg Unruh.
Well, I for one don't like people telling me how to spend my money, so I'd like to see the budget review committee come back, but I'd like to see it come back as a budget advisory committee. So any projects going forward can be run past the committee to see if it's affordable. And if it's something important, we can curb it until we can afford it. Or if it's not that important, then we can kill the deal right there on the spot. So definitely, another thing too is town hall meetings. Roundtable meetings with the citizens, where the citizens can have input and get feedback from council, not just be listened to and thank you and walk out the door.
Next, Jennifer Nelson.
Thank you. So as a former member of the Budget Review Committee, Mr. Starner, yep, I saw you. Hi, Councilmember Stout, she's back there. She was our advisory person on council when I served on that board in 2016. And I will say that that was probably one of the best experiences I had as a Cape Coral resident, as a taxpayer, as a mom, and being able to understand how city budgets work. The nonprofits that I've worked with, we run ours like businesses, right? And this budget was fantastic because it was so big. The other thing, that was probably one of the other reasons and main reasons I decided to run again, was when they took all those committees out. I didn't understand that. To Councilmember Welch's point, when he brought up putting together a parks committee, we had, after the Go Bond passed, we had meetings at all the parks. All right, and I remember Councilmember Tate probably had one of the hardest meetings ever when it was about the yacht club. So I would definitely advocate to bring those committees back because they're very important for everyone to have a voice.
Richard Carr.
Thank you. I'm a huge proponent of city approaching of the citizen involvement. I think there's huge benefit to it. I also believe that citizen involvement doesn't always come in a formal board way. It can come in informal ways, such as we're having this evening. I've interacted with a ton of people over the last 10 or 6 months or so since I've been sitting on city council. Even more than I did as a government employee, both for the city of Cape Coral, the city of Fort Myers, city of Naples. But if you don't understand what the citizens are truly feeling and listening to them, it's difficult to make decisions. We are charged with making decisions as city council members. But taking all the information we can, from all the sources available to us, to include the citizens, both formally and informal ways, is part of the process. And being genuine and being accountable to the citizens is also part of that process, and that's what I'm committed to. Thank you.
William Matthews.
So citizen involvement is imperative in order to move forward, so we know how to actually have a holistic view of what this city needs to move to the future. Getting rid of the advisory boards, I have no idea what council was thinking. They do not know everything. Obviously, over the last 6 years, in my opinion, we have been consistently going downhill and they have done nothing to fix it. They've gone straight and straight down the drain. We are like the Titanic heading right to the iceberg right now. We need to get the citizens back in and hear their voices. We have to get the advisory boards back up, and we need them to be advisory boards, not review committees. We need to get the expert opinions from the people who know exactly what they're talking about and know exactly where they are coming from. It's the only way that we can do this. If we don't do this, we're gonna sink.
LWVLee.
I believe citizen involvement is very important. The advisory boards all need to come back. There is so much untapped knowledge in the citizens of Cape Coral. And with the advisory boards, they would get to be heard. People's opinions and needs and wants would actually be heard, and they're not being heard now. With city council meetings, there's no real input at the time. Possibly rearrange the way the city council meetings are handled so that people actually get an answer to their questions, which they're not getting now. Thank you.
Dan Shepherd.
Yes, I listen and I listen well. 4 years ago, when I ran for council, I spent months going throughout the entire city, talking to all different groups and people of what are the wants and needs. And I wrote them down, and there was 5. And I achieved all but one, which will be achieved very shortly. And that's another park added to our city with hopefully a botanical gardens. And I hope that's completed before my term's up. But what I want people to understand is that these are the times that you set the challenges for the different people that you want to elect. You told me what my goals should be, and I worked on them, and I succeeded. And I'm not going to sway from the goals that you set me, the path you put me on, because people show up at a council meeting. My goal was to achieve what I was elected to do. Promises made, promises kept.
Can we keep the audience quiet? Dan Lebo.
That's a real simple answer. The government's for the people, by the people. So that's simple. We need to include the residents. That's it.
Derek Donald.
So the question was, we talk about the council has talked to policy development, part A, and the question then talked about decision making. What has happened is, where it gets to the fact with decision making is normally when people come up and it's so far down the road, the discussion, that when it seems like the council isn't listening because they're not doing what we want them to do. What am I saying? What am I saying is that for the first part, we need to get the citizens involved in the actual beginning of the policy development. Therefore, by the time we get to making the decision, we're all walking in one accord. We have to bring them back. One of the most humbling things to me, yes, I have my doctorate degree, but in this room right now, I don't want to call the name, I'm looking at him right now, I happen to go to my church. But his knowledge of the budget and listening to him talk told me that many of you all, they know so much more than I do. And I couldn't agree more. We have to tap more into you. We need you. I know I need you because I can learn from you. And I'm thoroughly committed to bringing the committees back having your voice on the front end as we're developing it. So by the time we get to the end, now we're not just, oh, done with it.
Thank you. And last, Chad Rooney.
Do the right thing. We're all asking you for your vote. We can't ignore you after you give it to one of us. I stated that we have to get back into some action committees, some advisories on what the citizens are wanting for their particular neighborhoods, what they're wanting to happen in their particular areas of Cape Coral. And we have to go through and listen to the citizens and take that into account on all our decisions moving forward. Thank you.
All right, time for a new question, and I have a helper. We've had a request if you can hold your microphones a little closer to your mouth. The next question is, what do you think is the appropriate compensation system for elected Cape Coral officials? Again, that's what do you think is the appropriate compensation system for elected Cape Coral officials? And the first speaker will be Dan Shepherd.
It should be what you would accept the day you ran. And that's what I did. I am working for the income that was offered to me when I ran for office 4 years ago, and that's what I accepted. And that's all I accepted. Thank you.
Next, William Matthews.
Compensation should be set by the people. If anybody, for any reason, we believe it should be a raise, we do it like normal people. We go to our bosses, the people, and ask, how are we doing? Do we deserve a raise? How much should that be? If you believe it should be none, then it's none. It's that simple. And to circumvent to give yourself a raise is sickening to me that we are doing that. They're literally stealing from me, they are stealing from you, and it's gotta stop. The only way it can stop is you get out there and vote for somebody that's not a council person now or has been in the last 6 years. Thank you.
Next, Daniel Ludlow.
It's kind of a trick question because some of these guys have full-time jobs. They're just gonna show up to vote, or I'm gonna make it a full-time job. So how are you gonna do that? Everyone gets the same pay. Guys getting 80,000 a year for salary, and they turn around, show up, vote 4 times a month or whatever, and they get their full pay while I'm doing it full-time. So I think there should be a way that we can, but again, like he said, there's smarter people out there that can figure the salary system out. But you got a full-time job and you're just gonna come in to vote, then you really shouldn't get as much as the guy that's coming in 8 hours a day.
Next, Lori Lehman.
I'm fully retired. I intend to put everything into this job. And I know what the salary is walking in the door, otherwise I wouldn't run. I have no problem with it. I'm sorry, but I don't think that anyone should just decide to give themselves a raise. Call it whatever you want. But you don't turn around and just give yourself a raise because you've decided you should be entitled. Doesn't work that way. Thank you.
Next, Derek Donald.
You gotta kind of taking all the thunder away. I got excited running for council. I think you guys were at 40,000. Why don't we get run? We can get another 6. No, take it off the record, all right? My wife is gonna kill me. Seriously speaking, philosophically and fundamentally, I've been a public servant all my life. Under no circumstance should a governing body that takes public dollars have the authority to give themselves any kind of compensation that goes upward. Period. You got that? It's real simple. So the question is, what's the appropriate compensation system? Well, we have people out there just like our boards. We can put a board together that goes out and does a study of cities like ours, look at their particular salary compensation, get the people, put it on the agenda, have a meeting, come toward everybody here, right there on the record, and then council there put the findings on the ballot, and the people that we look for, vote for it. Really hard.
Chad Rooney. Okay.
I'm not in this thing for the money. I know what the pay is. I'm perfectly happy with what the pay is. I'm here to serve the people of Cape Coral. So I do feel if council was to bring it up to put it on a vote, I would definitely support that. That's no, put it before the people. The people have to decide. Thank you.
Next is Joseph Kilray.
I am totally against the way the stipend was done. It was chicanery. It was, it really was trying to pull the wool over the residents' eyes. Every salary decision should be made through referendum by the people. The people deserve the right to vote on it. They are our bosses. You know what the salary is going in. You agree to that salary, you take it. I personally will not take the stipend. I'm gonna work like heck to either have it reversed or killed in some manner, and there's other ways of doing it. But basically, I will fight to make that happen. I will fight to make sure that we have a charter change to do it. Some of the people say, well, the reason we didn't want to go to charter change was we knew the residents wouldn't do it. Well, guess what? You earned that knowledge then somehow, and you earned the disrespect for doing that. Thank you.
Next, Michael Harper.
Yes, as far as the stipend, I think that needs to go away. However, the government is a business and it should be ran as such. If you want to attract good people, obviously compensation is a big part of it. Now, obviously you guys make up of that, but as Darnell said, I think if you do a study, figure out what the other councils throughout the state are making, maybe, you know, come up with an average, something that, you know, would attract good people to do the job. Not to say that nobody on this board here or is running is good people, but, you know, it is a business and it should be ran as such. You know, redefine the policy, job description, set expectations, and if they don't meet it, get them out. Simple as that.
Next, Robert Sutter.
All right, so I just revisited this statement, nowhere in it did it say anything about stipend, okay? But I'm gonna share my thoughts with you. I'm a retired Army officer, I'm also retired from Northrop Grumman. I came out here because I don't need the money. I came out here to do the right thing for the community. All right, so let's solve this problem right now about how you're going to compensate, how, you know, path forward for how to compensate the city council. I would like to be able to link the city council's pay to the median average of all employees in Cape Coral. All right, and then the only way that they can receive the pay increase is if they raise the bottom third of the employees, so that the people that work for Cape Coral can afford to live in Cape Coral. The last note is that no matter what they decide, it has to be voted on by the citizens. You just can't arbitrarily do it. The citizens count, have their voice be heard.
Craig Enright.
I think like any other job, when you accept that job or you go to apply for that job, you know what the pay is. If you don't like it, don't take it. As a council member, you work for the city, you work for the people, the voters. So if you want a raise, you go to the voters, the same way you would at a regular job, you go to your boss. You don't go take it in your own hands and decide to give yourself extra money without, with a stipend. Even though what they did was legal, morally it was wrong. They shouldn't have done that. They should have put it forth before the voters and put it on the agenda and have it voted on.
All right, thank you. Next is Robert Welch.
When it comes to the stipend, I just want to put on the record, I was the only council member to vote no on the stipend when it came for a vote. I also feel that there's a certain way that it needs to be brought forward, which after it passed, I received a second to work on the correct way, which is to bring it before the voters. So I did some research and I went through different communities and I brought forward 4 different options to council. which none of them seem to pass to get it on the ballot for this term. So I would also support getting a independent study or a citizens advisory board to do what I did and bring it forward to show, and then ultimately put it on the ballot for the residents and the citizens to vote on what they feel compensation should be. Thank you.
And that's Richard Carter.
Thank you. I think the appropriate compensation system is in place already, and that's through referendum. Our charter is clear that the referendum is required to increase salary of city council. That system has worked in the past. I think it can work in the future. It is important that the compensation is commensurate with the work responsibilities of the position. I can tell you, I did do my own research as well before I refused to take this stipend. I think there is supporting evidence out there that the salary should be higher. However, I think the mechanism in which it should be done is through referendum, through the vote of the citizen. I think by doing that, it's clear, it's very transparent process. The documentation will all be there to back it up. And then ultimate outcome is up to you, the citizen. I voted on in the past for compensation increases where we are today, which includes a annual COLA, which I think is important moving forward as well. That way it doesn't have to come back every single year for consideration. But it's already in place through referendum. Thank you.
All righty, thank you. So the next question is going to be, how can K4 reduce flooding and build resiliency? Again, how can K4 reduce flooding and build? Oh, I'm sorry, Jennifer. Jennifer.
I'll make it quick. I agree that the mechanism is already in place. Our charter clearly states it. It is through referendum and that's the way it should be done. I happened to be there the night that item was on the consent agenda. And as if those of you who've seen council meetings or gone to them, you can, when you're a council member, you can pull items from the consent agenda for discussion. Why the seated council members up there didn't do that, I still don't know, because it was very confusing. It was not transparent. But I agree, we have the mechanism already in place in our charter. And if anything, our city can look at putting together a group and maybe pulling comparables from other cities the same size, and look at what their elected officials are doing with the same city manager form of government. Thank you.
All right, back to question 4. How can K4 reduce flooding and build resiliency? Richard, random selection says you get to talk again. Richard Carter.
Thank you. This is certainly not my area of expertise. I would love a public safety question, but I can't dictate that. If I could stop flooding, if I had the knowledge to stop flooding, it would be something I obviously would do. I think our city does a pretty good job of it. There's, sometimes we have excessive flooding, it has to do with Mother Nature and the overwhelming amount of rain that we receive. I don't think any system anywhere could accommodate some of these 10-inch an hour sessions that we've had recently. It does clear, it does go away. I don't say that there aren't areas that we need to do more work on, but we actively do that every single day in the city. I think we do a pretty good job of it. It's about the drainage systems, it's about the water flow, where it goes, and making sure that it can flow freely where it's appropriate. But again, this is an ongoing battle that we're constantly working on in the city, and I think we do a pretty good job of it. Thank you.
Next, Michael Harper.
Controlling flooding may be difficult, obviously, when we get 10 inches of rain within a certain period of time. But if you drive around most of the time, the road is lower than the grass. I mean, that's part of the problem. Might want to do some better grading on the side of it, you have 450 miles of canal. Surely somehow we can build a culvert or something that would lead out to one of the canals for the water to dump into. Obviously, I'm not an expert at that. I think the city should probably look into that, but I think that's a couple of the things that the city could do that would help alleviate some of the flooding in the area.
Thank you. Next is Robert Sutter.
All right, just so y'all know, I'm not an engineer, but like I said, this is one of those things that's a need versus a want, and we need to focus on this. This is a short-term problem that we need to solve for the long term. We need to get the engineers together and figure it out. and then bring it up to the community to see how they would like to best address it. Give them 3 courses of action, pick one of the 3. And let's move out and draw fire, because we can't sit there and tread water on this, no pun intended, but we have to sit there and move out and fix this problem.
Robert Welsh.
Thank you. For those of us that have lived in the city, 30+ years like myself, we all know that the stormwater system is much better than it used to be. It's always gonna be an issue, as everyone's come up before me and saying, you get 10 inches of rain, there's gonna be a problem. And as residents of Cape Coral, we've learned that when you get 10 inches of rain, you don't get in your car and try to drive. You sit, hang out with your family for 30 minutes and wait for the water to subside. So years ago, it wasn't waiting 30 minutes, it was waiting a day. Sometimes you couldn't even get up and go to work the next morning. But I think the advancements that we've had in our stormwater system, and with the UEPs coming in, knowing the knowledge that we've had, the city is looking good in the future. Thank you.
Jennifer Nelson.
Thank you. So in 2021, Governor DeSantis approved over $500 million in coastal resiliency efforts throughout the state of Florida. At the time, I worked on Captiva, and I was in charge of a small legislative district that did coastal resiliency, and we partnered with the county and the state. One of the things that I spoke to at our then city manager after this money came available was, what are we doing in Cape Coral to apply for it? The good news is we did. Our biggest opportunity was at the time in 2022 at the Yacht Club. And some of those coastal resiliency efforts, we had gotten some money to do a study and see how far below sea level we were and how fast we were sinking, if you will. I don't know what the city has done with that recently. I'd have to do some research on that. But we do have opportunities, and we can do things like building up our mangroves, you know, adding more sand to our beach, being able to put potential seawalls, natural seawalls that also will help that coastal resiliency. Thank you.
Dan Ludlow.
I haven't got a clue. I have no idea. That's why you hire experts and bring their decision to the public and let them vote on which way they want to go. As far as I'm concerned, that's what we need to do. I'm not an expert in drainage.
Dan Shepherd.
I sat down with our engineers about this situation, and they told me that our system is designed on a 50-year storm. So, you know, they're not designed to have 9 or 10 inches and less than that. Okay, the other problem we have is our entire city is pretty much built on top of water with all our canals. But the other thing that we have to look at is our system's designed to protect our waterways. It's designed to be a filter system, so it's designed for the speed of the water to leave and go into the canals is to give it time for the water to filter. So, you know, there's a balancing act here. So if you look in most cases, we get a heavy downpour and your street might have a lot of water, but you'll notice when the rain stops, usually within a very short time, the water is gone. But that's what our system's designed for, 50-year storm. It's also designed for, like I said, to protect our waterways and keep them clean. Thank you.
Next is Chad Brody.
Being a contractor, I've dealt with drainage issues my whole career. I heard Dan comment about a 50-year floodplain or 50-year storm. Every community I've ever built for in the past has always been 100-year. Maybe that's something that we need to be looking at. One other thing we could potentially look at is increasing retainage basins in the community. Let it flow into these basins and slowly drain down. Whatever does happen needs to be gone through with an engineer with a clear plan from the city on what they anticipate and what they expect. Thank you.
Chad Dunham.
Okay. I'm no engineer, but I can say this much. During Hurricane Ian, I watched undeveloped lot, which is low level, low grade, water come pouring into that lot and flooded my neighborhood, came up to my door. And there's 3 lots on my street right now, well, 2 lots now, that lot's now been developed, and since it's been developed, it's been elevated to the current code. I think that one thing Cape Coral can do is, any property that is on a canal, waterfront property, even if it's undeveloped, the owner should be responsible to bring that level up to the proper elevation for code. Then they can build on it, don't wait until you get ready to build. Any property that's landlocked, that's okay, but anything that's on water needs to be built up, that'll help keep some of the water back.
Derek Donald.
So one thing I do know is that we have a stormwater master plan to address issues of flooding, but I'm not gonna sit here and babble because I don't have the expertise. I will say this though, when we talk about flooding, those incremental just downpours, if you look at the amount of time that it takes, I think someone mentioned for that water to run off, they do track that in the city, and it has improved since the time I've gotten here. So I don't have the answer for what we can do to stop the flooding, because I think it's just something inherent within our system. But I do know our stormwater master plan addresses that, as well as I think I heard former council member mention the issue of the resiliency. So I look forward to studying more, and maybe you can educate me after the meeting.
Lori Lake.
To maintain what we already have, after Ian, the storm sewers and the sewer system was not cleaned out. So yes, the roads flood. And if they're on a canal, yes, they will go into the canal. But if we maintain what we have and we take care of what we have, it would get better. Thank you.
William Matthews.
Although my background is in finance and accounting, my father-in-law expertise was actually an engineer who helped lead the way in my city Miami Beach's sewer system. So I've had great conversations with him and have a really good understanding of what we're missing here. I think to say that the city's done a good job, I would say no, they have not done a good job. They've done a very poor job. We don't just flood. It just doesn't happen if you have the right things in place, like the correct size piping that's connected to a pump that can move water out of the way. If we have vortex systems that are underground that can help mitigate against debris getting locked up, the water will move. The problem is we have people making decisions who don't know what they're talking about. And they're making decisions saying they're talking to experts, and these experts that they're calling in, I don't believe know what they're talking about. Why are we not talking with municipalities like City of Miami Beach who have gone through what we are going through now, but we simply just don't ask the right people the right questions. It is that simple. That's what I want to accomplish here.
And Joseph Gilray.
Unfortunately, I am an engineer. It's a chemical, polymer, and materials engineer. But basically, there are two flooding issues. One is the storm surge, which is really protecting the mangroves and making sure that we have that in place, and doing everything we can to preserve those mangroves, because they saved our bacon for so long. The second thing is the drainage system in the South Cape is it's antiquated. It's going to be very expensive to retrofit, but there is a climate adaptation dollars available. The Biden Inflation Reduction Act, AKA, it's a climate bill. There's money in that, and NOAA has money to do climate adaptation. The North is where we really have to do it right the first time. We have to make sure we size that correctly. The percolation area up there has to be correct. And we have to have the land uses such that the code has the reservoirs to hold them. Thank you.
All right, so that concludes the questions for the evening. Now we move on to the closing statements, and we're going to do them just in reverse order of how we did the opening statement. So the first closing statement, which is 60 seconds, is Chad Green.
Well, I didn't realize that's going to be first, but I never ran for office before. I feel that I had the expertise in dealing with municipalities and counties to come in here and talk to the engineers, to the departments, and bring a bit of advice, bring a bit of the other side to the table, an educated side to the table that maybe we don't have right now. I am new to the area. I moved here in 21. When I moved to Cape Coral, I figured out this is my home. So I am a fresh face in City Hall. I have not met the players in downtown. I have not spoken to any of them. I am the fresh face and I am the change that I feel like we're looking. Thank you.
Craig Enright.
I know one of the things people are concerned about is me not being able to attend meetings because of my job. My flexibility in my employment allows me to watch the meetings online, via YouTube or the website, the city council, Cape Coral website. That would change. My employer is already supporting me, and that will change when elected. My off days will be Wednesdays, not Fridays. But right now, I don't plan on, I'm not taking a stipend, but at the same time, I can't afford to lose the job I have now to support my family until election's over. Then I can switch things around, be able to do both. Other than that, I mean, I'm one of you guys. I'm not this first time doing this, but I'm just a citizen who got tired of seeing the way things are being done, so I decided to step up to the plate and try to do something about it.
Robert Welsh. First of all, I want to thank everyone for coming out tonight and thank the League of Women Voters for putting this together. I want to kind of pick up where I left off on my introduction. One of the things that I was not able to share with you, and that in my term of 4 years, one of the things that I have never done is vote for an increase in the millage rate. And that is something that I'm very passionate about, is that we need to let growth pay for growth. We don't need to put taxes on the back of the residents that have been here. And everything that I told you we accomplished without raising the millage rate. And I will stick to that for the next 4 years and fight for that for you, the residents. And I will fight for anything that you bring to me and come to me, whether it be in my office or by email. I am here for you. I'm here to represent you, and I wish to continue to do that for the next 4 years. Thank you.
Robert Sutter.
So, good evening. Once again, thank you all for having us here. It's been an interesting activity. I only ran because my neighborhood asked me to run. People that I go out and talk with throughout the years, couple of years, you know, I've spoken with them and they said, Bob, you need to get involved. You've got the experience, the education, and you're not afraid to make a decision. All right, so I'm not here for the stipend. You know, I'm just here to try to bring common sense in, as well as transparency in to what is going on. I also realize that there's certain processes that are broke that we need to fix. It's just change. You know, you gotta change, you gotta move forward. So once again, not a career politician, this is my first time, and I thought that I would just come out here and try to make the community a better place to live. Thank you.
Joseph Kilray.
Now they're hearing me too. Well, thank you all for coming. I really appreciate it. Thank you for hosting this. Again, I'm retired. I came out of retirement to do this. I have an awful lot of tools in my toolbox, from a lot of technical skills, water, you name it, I've been there pretty much. I also understand the city's operations and the budget extremely well. And I can guarantee you that my sole purpose in doing this is to represent the city and the people of Cape Coral to make it the best it can be. I've been accused of being a street fighter, and I'll take that all the time. I will not quit. There's no quit in me, and I will work as hard as it takes and as long as it takes to get it done. I don't need the money, and I will make sure that I'm representing you at every stage of the game. And you can take it to the bank, because I'm not taking any money to the bank no stipend for me. Thank you.
Jennifer Nelson.
Thank you so much for having me. As I mentioned earlier, I decided to run, and there were 3 reasons. One was the stipend. One was because I really missed it. And the third reason was because I just couldn't keep my mouth shut anymore with some of the decisions that I saw some of my former teammates making. I'm really excited for this opportunity to run again. I've always utilized my background and my connections to help the people within our city. I still do that. I am a fundraiser by trade, so I already am a good steward of other people's money for all the nonprofits that I've worked with and consulted with. So I look forward to hearing from any of you that want to reach out. I have information with my phone number, and my website is nelsonfordistrict4.com. Thank you.
Daniel Ludlow.
Well, I think we hit all the hot topics, so what I wanna hit on is raising our taxes. Because they wanna raise it again, we don't need our property taxes raised, we need to attract small manufacturing. For instance, Baxter and Stryker, they make medical products. They're a really small footprint, you don't have tractor trailers coming in every day. You can just have one tractor trailer load, comes in once every 2 months, has enough product in there for people to have steady jobs, manufacturing, and we can tax it and sell those products from Tampa down to here and across to Miami. So stop raising our taxes.
Dan Shepherd.
What I want to continue to do is I was given challenges by the citizens 4 years ago, and I've met all them challenges and succeeded without raising the millage rate. I think there are new challenges today, and I'm going to tell you what the biggest challenge is. The biggest challenge is to make sure in the future we don't have to raise the millage rate. And what we need to focus on is our city, even though it looks look, we have a lot of land left. We actually do not have a lot of land and property left for commercial build out. And that is extremely important. And that is going to be the biggest goal of mine on making sure we get the right commercial investment in our city to help pay future taxes. Because the machine that runs our city now, a large part of it is the machine of the companies that are building all the houses. When we're built out, there's going to be a need for a new machine. Thank you.
Michael Harper.
I want to thank you all for coming out this evening. We really appreciate your time. As you've heard this evening, we have some really good ideas up here, but there's probably just as many good ideas out here. We need to hear from you guys. Also, the people that you elect, we need to make sure that we're all on the same boat. We need to go in the same direction. You know, the council, mayor, city manager, the citizens. Unless the boat is rowing in the same direction, all it's gonna do is keep going in a circle. We can't keep doing that. So, I'm sure you guys will make your vote count. We appreciate your time and y'all have a good evening.
William Matthews.
So first of all, thank you again for coming out. If you haven't had a chance to meet me yet, please definitely feel free to come up and talk to me about anything. Or go to my website, but I would rather talk to you in person than for you to just read something about me. It's a little different when you have a conversation with somebody. Thank you to the league for putting this together. I think this was something great for everybody to see. Just a little bit more about me. I'm a father of 3. And, for me, I'm also blessed to have my parents that are still here. So I have a great knowledge of, between the generations of kind of what everybody should need. And I'm absolutely committed to the residents to make sure we get to where we need to go. There's no time to correct everything that I believe we all, have been missteps so far, and I think we can get it done. And the last thing, thank you to all the other candidates that stepped up. I think we all know that there is a problem that's going on, so thank you for putting your name in the hat so we can get this ship right. Thank you.
Richard Carr.
Thank you. Just want to say, as a lifelong public servant and law enforcement professional, the appointment I got to the city council seat was probably one of the most humbling experiences and still continues to be in my career. To serve the citizens in that way is something that I've never experienced, although I've served them my entire life. I can just tell you that I'm in this for all the right reasons. I got into this for one reason alone, and that is to serve the citizens of the city in the most professional way that I possibly can. I consider every decision I make with all the facts available to me before I make them, and I consider all my life experiences as part of that process. Again, I've been married for 30 years. My wife and I both live in District 4 together with our 2 children, adult children at this point. My daughter's a school teacher. My son's in a trade. My mom and dad actually live about half a mile from me. I'm so lucky enough to have them with me as well. So I think I have a pretty well-rounded, way of doing things, and I can just ask you for your vote and support moving forward, and I will give you everything I have. Thank you.
Derek Donald.
Thank you to the Women's League for this very, very important and valuable and well-run debate. Thank you everyone for showing up. And I just wanted to say to you again, my name is Derek Donnell. And I'm in this because when I retire here in a few years, this is my home. I will be here, been there and I'm gonna be here. What I am not is someone that likes a lot of discord. People are just so angry now and upset and just mad. We have a great city. We have challenges that can be overcome. And what we are going to do is we are going to work together collectively, and we are going to continue to move this city forward. Let me say it again, we have a great city. Government is not the problem, it's the people that we have there. So when you look at the ballot, I want you to look at my name, Derek Donnell, and I want you to ask the question, what you seek is what you find. What are some ways why I would be a good representative? Not the way why I wouldn't. I'm going to serve you, I'm going to work hard for you, and I'm always going to do what is the best for us, our children and our grandchildren. God bless you. I need your vote, Derek Donnell. Thank you.
And last but not least, Lori Lincoln.
I'm a retired RN. I also have a degree in accounting. And I want the citizens to be heard, and I want the citizens to be taken care of. Their wants and needs are very important. I'm accessible to anyone who needs me at any time. I've used my personal email and my personal cell phone number so that anyone can reach me at any time. I have answered many an email already. I got into this race to try to change things in this town, to make it a better town. It was great when I first moved here, and it's kind of gone by the wayside, and that needs to change. Thank you.
Thank you. And on behalf of the Lee County League of Women Voters, we really appreciate all of the candidates showing up. What a great crowd. Can we give them a applause? We're almost totally filled up. I really appreciate you guys coming as well. A couple of other remarks. If you guys are interested in more information on the upcoming election, you can visit the League's website, 411 Vote, and we have a fabulous prize for you on the way out. There's a card that will remind you where to go. We also have another handout here about the 411. There's a lot of good information on that. It gives you information on the candidates, on the ballot measures, gives you a lot of links to other resources. So do remember that. And Sandy said that the actual candidate information will be posted probably next week. Members of the League of the Women's Voters do the hands-on work to strengthen and safeguard our democracy. We never endorse a candidate, but we are directly involved in ensuring that our community is aware of and understands the issues facing our counties and states. If you'd like to get involved in helping make our democracy work, consider joining the League. Visit our website, LWVLee.org, where you can sign up for the email updates if you don't want to join, but you can also think about joining. And a final reminder, the deadline to register to vote, pretty confident all of you guys have, but it's July 22nd. The deadline to request a mail-in ballot for the primary is August the 8th. And remember, you have to request that mail-in ballot every cycle this time. We have voter registration assistance available on our table in the back, or you can go online to lee.vote, and it's super easy to register there. So last point, remember, your vote is your voice, so make your voice heard. Thanks for coming.
Great.
When they start the recording?
Yes.